So hi, so John from Learn Plus, and I'm joined today by Ian, Director of Experior Asia. So welcome, Ian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Very well at the moment. All good.
Well, thank you very much for joining us anyway, Ian. Really do appreciate it. I thought we could maybe start with me just asking just a little bit about your background for people who might be watching, and then a little bit about Experior Asia before we get started on the deeper questions.
Yeah, sure. No problem at all. Yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm currently in the UK actually, over here visiting family and the universities. But I have been living in Hong Kong for almost 12 years actually, quite a while. I finished university in the UK and I did a degree in media and cultural studies, actually, completely different to where I've ended up. But decided I wanted to, travel the world, see the world, meet new people, and teaching abroad was the best way to do that, I thought. So I did an in-classroom TEFL course in Manchester 12 years ago, and then went over to Hong Kong, which I don't really know why I chose Hong Kong. Actually, it was just kind of in the middle of Asia, so we just headed out there, and yeah, I was teaching TEFL teaching, so I'm not a qualified teacher, but had a lot of experience teaching there with kindergarten. I worked for a bit. I worked in a learning center, and then I also did some adult teaching. So I did teaching for probably about 5 years actually, overall, before moving into a bit of a sales marketing role with more so what I studied. But yeah, while I was teaching and while I was over there was always a niche in the market for a recruitment agency that really not just helps you find the ideal job, but kind of looks after you and guides you through the processes, whether that be interviews or moving abroad, etc. So that's where Experior came about essentially, and that's how we decided to start it and launch it and get things moving. Because when I went to Hong Kong, I didn't have a job sorted. It took a good few months to get settled and really find what I was looking for. So the whole idea of Experior came about from that, realizing that there weren't many companies out there that really kind of were hands-on and helped you, especially moving to a new country, which you've done, John, is daunting at first, isn't it? Yeah. Especially to someone who's young, straight out of uni. So yeah, we wanted to be that helping hand, and that's how Experior came about. So I've been doing that since 2015. Recruitment side of things, working with schools, learning centers, sports institutions, tutoring companies, a wide range really in Hong Kong, and advertising to TEFL teachers as well as qualified teachers, getting them out to Asia, and placed in a school or learning center abroad. And we were all over Asia actually, pre-pandemic, in China, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia as well. But obviously with the pandemic, kind of all the issues there, it slowed things down a bit. And now we're really just focused on Hong Kong mainly and China. But of course, in the future, we'll look to expand that side again. So yeah, I'm babbling a little bit, but in a nutshell, that's my background and how I came about to Experior essentially.
Yeah, well, it's a funny one actually, because obviously we know each other from our university days, which is quite a long time ago now. But actually, when I was initially teaching in the UK, I think keeping up to date with your movements and what you were doing in Hong Kong was a big driver for me to start looking internationally and looking at Asia as well. And on that basis, so it was a bit of a draw for me seeing the different things that you were doing. But you sort of touched upon the idea that you support teachers with their moves, and you're doing some work with universities at the moment. How do you support teachers with the move? What is it that sort of sets Experior apart? Because it's really interesting the approach that you take to that.
Yeah, I mean, there are, hundreds of agencies and recruitment companies out there, but it's always quite a professional but quite cold approach, I would say. So we're very much, about speaking about our experiences. We're a team actually who've all done it before, moved abroad and experienced different jobs. So we're really a helping hand in that process. So from, interview prep before they speak with schools, for example, we really, we have in-depth interviews, and we really prepare you for whatever that entails. But then beyond that, it's really much about helping you with the transition. So it's not just about the job, so to speak, but it's about moving abroad. So, helping with flights, picking you up from the airport, arranging accommodation. There's might seem like small things, but so important when you move into a new country. So yeah, we help set up bank accounts, help advise you on like mobile phone contracts and things like that. So it's really a whole kind of hands-on approach to getting you set up. And then, well, as we've both experienced it, once you've a few weeks or months into the job, you meet new people, and you settle quite easily. I think that's the whole benefit of living in Asia. It's very welcoming, I think. But throughout the contract or throughout our time there, we do like monthly events with our teachers. So you can meet new people, meet other teachers who are at different schools, and really see the city. So yeah, we do like different team building activities, like escape rooms or things like that. In the past, we've done like seminars on teaching and things like that, and really help anyone who's in need of advice on teaching. But also, the fun side of boat parties and tram parties and things like that, which is also important, the social side of moving to a new country.
Yeah, they always look really, really exciting, those the more social trips that you do. And so people can follow Experior on Instagram as well as...
Yeah, you could. Yeah, we're on pretty much all the social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. But yeah, you can follow us there.
Sound. And I'll include a couple of links to those in the comments, because your pages are really, really good. Well, thinking about those teachers, and you've got quite a robust onboarding process that you do, sort of external to schools. You focus on the candidate there. If we're thinking of teachers, so obviously I made the move from coming from teaching in the UK. For you, it was a completely new experience when you went over there. But thinking for existing teachers, perhaps in the UK, or teachers looking to make that international move, what advice would you have for them?
Well, it's a good question. To be honest, just have an open mind is probably a big one. When you're considering a move, it does seem like such a big thing, but as you know, it's not that big. And I always say to every teacher I interview, for example, what's the worst that could happen, right? You go out, you try it, you try the role, you see the culture, maybe the role's not a good fit, or you don't enjoy it. And then, you serve your notice accordingly and you leave quite quickly if it's not a good fit. But to be honest, we've not had any experience of people not enjoying it. So it's really more, encouraging to have an open mind and throw yourself into it, I would say. If you stick to yourself, you might have I wouldn't say lonely time, but a more challenging time of settling. But if you really throw yourself into it, get to know other people, see the city, join clubs, outside of work. That really helps with the transition. I think is just my personal view on things. Really, that's what helped with me. And yeah, having personally done it, it was the best decision I ever made. To be honest, it's led me to where I am, and I couldn't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I don't know whether this is the case in Hong Kong, Ian, but there's always a running joke in Singapore where you have those conversations with your expats and your international teachers, and you say, how long did you plan to come over for? And it's always a year or two. How long have you been here? 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's you really easily fall into that routine. And I think what you're saying about, I think networks are the key there, aren't they? Like if you're in isolation, then that's when you feel like you're a million miles from home. But with those strong networks that you help to facilitate as well with Experior, that's where the sort of depth comes.
For sure.
Well, thinking about that and thinking about that sort of need and the gap that you've identified as a recruitment company to sort of support teachers with that move and all of that really, really in-depth settling in process and the continuation of that over the course of the journey. What would you say that schools and international schools could do to better support teachers making the move?
Yeah, to be honest, a lot of the larger international schools, especially, they do support the teachers quite well, in terms of setup in another country, and the whole recruitment process is quite streamlined, which is nice. I think smaller schools, especially local government, state schools, and more perhaps like smaller institutions, private, learning centers, things like that, could do a lot more to really help with that transition. And it's just showing support. I think, in the past, especially pre-pandemic, teachers were replaceable. There was always teachers about I think, having that support is necessary to retain teachers and to keep them happy. And I think in the past, where perhaps schools have got it wrong, is they've not supported them and they've just simply replaced them quickly, and then that's had a knock-on effect. Support in general, and not just in the workplace. Outside of work, checking in on candidates, teachers, to making sure that everything's okay outside of work is huge, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like the merry-go-round of teachers that you've just alluded to. The impact on a school's bottom line there, in terms of the hiring and onboarding costs over and over again, going to your recruitment fairs. If we just look after our teachers, then as school leaders, that actually the costs are reduced. But then also, I suppose, the impact on student learning and the educational outcomes in your institution through having this faculty that is ingrained and been there and is invested in improving the school. Better support leads to better outcomes through the whole organisation. So
I think since COVID, I think that has been an improvement. I think schools are focusing a lot more on retaining teachers, offering more incentives, benefits, packages, whatever it may be, to really keep teachers and keep them happy. So I think COVID has been a bit of a learning curve in that sense. And I feel like now you're seeing that trend more so in the support of teachers and retaining them for sure.
Fantastic. So there's trends that you're noticing from a recruitment background in terms of retention and the onboarding. Any other trends that you're noticing at the moment, particularly in Asia, in teacher recruitment?
Yeah, I mean, it has obviously been a tough few years with COVID, to say the least, and as well, everyone knows, Hong Kong and China in particular, that our two biggest areas of focus have been the most strict restrictions and everything. So to be honest, it has been a tough few years. We've been quite lucky to recruit a lot in the country, and rather than bringing people from other countries. So that's helped us a lot, being probably established for a few years, where we had a huge database of candidates already there. So we managed to move people around and recruit in that way. But I mean, it's getting better. It's definitely improved a lot year on year. People are becoming more and more attracted to Asia now, which is great. Of course, Hong Kong is completely open. I think China recently have followed or soon to be in the coming weeks. So hopefully that is the open door, So since the pandemic, we are seeing it improve a lot, and there's a lot more interest, which is great, of course. And I guess one area has been, I guess schools have focused, again, pre-pandemic would hire from abroad, where now they're looking at local staff, I would say. So, they focus more on qualified local staff, which perhaps those candidates might not have had as much of a chance of getting into those schools, pre-pandemic, where they could easily get an expat over, for example. So that's been great. That's been fantastic for us as a company, but also, of course, the local community. That there is really quality candidates that are local, essentially, and they are now starting to be looked at and offered those opportunities, which is great. And again, post-pandemic, I would probably say, more opportunities for your, TEFL, TESOL teachers, ESL teachers, perhaps to go into those larger schools. Of course, there's opportunities for them in the local government schools, but even international schools, I think we've seen, perhaps those schools giving them the opportunity, perhaps as a TA or some assisting role, and then kind of nurturing them into a more class teacher role, perhaps while they're studying for a PGCE or Bachelor of Education or something. So more opportunities for your not PGCE qualified teachers, you might say. But overall, it is getting better. Definitely more interest showing in Asia, which is great.
I think that's a really interesting point that you made towards the end there, with bringing on board EAL and ESL teachers and the TEFL qualified teachers, and then the nurturing them. So the school that I led, we brought over a number of staff, because we knew, with certain English language qualifications, like your deltas and your Trinity Dip and things, the postgraduate ones, that actually the quality of teaching was very, very high, and we benefited from getting these teachers in, but then we were also able to give them a place with the IPGCE, was really, really good. So we had a number of candidates at Sunderland, and they did that whilst we had this brilliant teacher with 10 years experience previously. They just needed that opportunity to get the PGCE qualification, and that really paid dividends there. So it's nice to see that's shifting a little bit, and actually there's more inventive ways of getting these sort of teachers on board, and these what's essentially very, very well experienced teachers and loads of classroom practice behind them into those international schools. For
sure. And just on that, we are seeing more schools like sponsor those, further study, IPGC, etc. as well, which gives a little back to the teacher and shows their commitment. So it's good.
Fantastic. So I think then, I always sort of like to start concluding these conversations asking for how either teachers or leaders can improve systems and processes. So thinking about the whole recruitment process for teachers in international schools, what would your advice be to school leaders in terms of how they could improve their recruitment processes?
Yeah,
It's
again,
a big question.
It's a great question, because every school has different ways to go about it. But like advice, so to speak, is just make sure it's really streamlined, and you have that process and it's detailed to the candidate from the beginning. Whether it be a 1 or 2 interview process, it should be clear from the start, because we've had it in the past where that's been unclear, and then a candidate has had to go through a 4, 5, 6 interview process, and they just keep bringing up another interview, and it's like it loses the commitment of the teacher sometimes. So that would be just real clear process to the candidate from the start. But one which is probably more of a personal nag rather than a tip or advice is, when posting job ads, having the precise detail more about the day-to-day duties of the role and the tasks, rather than general comments. Like, we get a lot of job descriptions that are for example, communicate well as a team, and it's like, or ensure good care of your students, but those things go without saying as a teacher. It doesn't need that information, as I say, just goes without saying. It doesn't need to be mentioned. So
it's funny you say that one, Ian, actually, because we over the last couple of weeks in building our product, we've been having a look at the Chat GTP, the AI software, and one of the things that I had a look at, a recruiter had posted in there, create a job post without actually having a specific job in mind, so the job post was all things like that, and it read like so many of the job descriptions that I've seen, these big 4-page job descriptions in international schools with hot air and waffle in there. So I like that idea of being precise and concise. That's the key thing.
And often, when we interview, because we always interview the candidate first before we send them to the school, and they always say, well, what, do you have more information about the day-to-day duties? And we perhaps might not have that detailed knowledge. We're not teaching in the school ourselves, right? So I think some of the job posts are very vague and can be more precise and to the point, which definitely helps, when applying for a role. And one obvious point, and this is perhaps a biased comment, John, would be I'd hope more schools would look at recruitment specialists like Experior, like ourselves, and other companies, rather than waste money on job boards or interviewing bad candidates, and investing a lot of time in flicking through hundreds of candidates which are not suitable. If you invest a bit of money or time into a specialist who can get those candidates who meet the requirements exactly, who they've already vetted, already interviewed, and already are pretty confident they make a good recruit, then that helps. It saves time and money their end, and of course it just speeds up the process. As a recruitment company, we map out the industry, we map out the market, so we know who's in what position, when their contract's up, and when they're available for a new role perhaps, and we could really kind of align them with the ideal candidate. So a little bit of a biased comment, you might say, John, but
no,
definitely.
I think you're saying biased there, but I think you're absolutely spot on. And I'm thinking, obviously over the years I've been involved in lots and lots of recruitment, and it's not a case of recruiters coming and replacing that internal recruiter. It's a case of working closely together. And I think that the key thing for schools and recruitment teams and leadership teams within schools to consider is you've got to quantify that time your interviewers. So if I think of the interviews that I've taken part in, it's myself as the head of the secondary school and the head teacher, and we're doing 10 to 15 hours of recruitment a week, and what we're finding that actually we've got some decent candidates, but either the school's not a good fit for them or they're not a good fit for our school, despite the fact that they are a brilliant teacher. It's just not the right one. And actually, with effective pre-screening and with some clarity and openness on that job description at the moment in terms of actually what we're looking for, the amount of time saved, and if we were to put a cost, like an hourly salary on that thing, that actually the costs in using recruitment can sometimes just save you an absolute fortune and save a lot of frustration, as well as a school HR department or a school leadership team. And also for the candidate, which is key, because even those candidates who might not be joining you, it's really impressions count, and you realize quite quickly in international education how small a world it really is, and that word of mouth process really quickly gets around. So actually the long-term damage that can be done through not having that initial pre-screening and really getting the right candidate before you've done that can be massive.
Completely agree. And I think, as you say, the time spent on it is not realized, is it?
No.
And then so that's not considered, but it saves a lot of time and in the long run money. I think a lot of schools are alarmed, and especially obviously with saving costs and things like that over the years, they're a little bit scared of the recruitment cost involved, perhaps. But when you put it in that perspective, they're actually probably saving money in the long run, which is not always looked at.
Excellent. All right, so we start sort of wrapping up there, and some really interesting points there, and it's nice for us to be able to provide that perspective of an experienced recruitment firm and bring that into schools. One of the things that we've chatted about, and one of the things where Learn Plus are sort of exploring things with Experior is looking at how technology can improve teaching. And obviously we think of ourselves as a technology enabled education company. So we are very big on tech, but you've got some interesting sort of developments, and you're looking at quite an exciting tech project at the moment with Experior. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, for sure. And just before I mention that, obviously, we do a lot of work. I'm over in the UK at the moment doing work with the universities, promoting, teaching abroad opportunities for students in the UK to move out there. And we talked about working together through Learn Plus, doing some programs, training perhaps, or using the materials, which would be hugely beneficial. So that's I'm sure a great area moving forward. But just in the ed tech space, we're working on a new project called Links. And it's basically a web-based platform to help better connect students, schools, families, and teachers, essentially. And I won't go into too much detail, but we want to, there's a lot of long time-consuming, mind-numbing processes perhaps schools or families have, for example, in the recruitment or in the admissions process, or etc. And we're trying to really reduce that and make a platform that is, can really better connect and make it a smooth, easy process from all parties. So really, connecting all sides of it, really.
Yeah, I love that idea of connecting the dots, and obviously you've taken me through it a little bit. So I've got a few more insights that are under wraps at the moment. So we're very excited to sort of work with you and make the most of that software. So hopefully, what we will do is that when you're ready for a launch on that, we'd love to sort of get you back on and explore that in a little bit more detail, because I think what you're creating there is something that will have a huge impact on the or can have a huge impact, not only on the international school market, but a lot of the stuff that you've got planned for connecting families, I think is going to be key, and putting, that's something that obviously we should always be doing in international schools is we're putting the family first as well as the student, and I'm very excited to see what that brings over the course of the next couple of years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're pretty close to launching. So yeah, I mean, let's set up another call and we can go through it and see how we can work together. But yeah, it will be beneficial to schools, families alike. So yeah, hopefully things go well with it, and we can take it from there. But yeah, it seems to be the way the world is going in the edtech space. So yeah, hopefully it's all good.
Brilliant. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, Ian. We'll obviously put a couple of links to Experior and things in there so people can connect with you, whether that's a school looking to recruit or whether it's candidates looking for that next job.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the chat, and it's great to catch up. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you're a candidate, but also if you're a school looking to recruit as well. I'd be happy to speak to you.
Brilliant. Okay. Take care, Ian.
Cheers. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.